Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Time for a weekly recap. I'm gonna try to keep it at 30 minutes. We'll see how that goes. You guys know how I am when I get on the mic. It's really hard to do just 30 minutes, but we're gonna do a weekly recap. I will look at the top 10 crypto by market cap charts, excluding Tether, of course. And then we will, depending on how much time we have, maybe we'll take a look at a few other names, try to move quickly. I'll cover a few notable news items as well. And speaking of news, looks like we've got crypto in the house. And crypto, that's the channel. If you want to get the news and stay up to speed on some of the latest, definitely check his stuff out. I'm sure most of you guys already do. He's been around for quite some time. But welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. And hopefully you guys can hear me just fine. Sounds like we are good to go. Comments coming through. And so without further ado, let's get to it. I'm going to go over the coin market cap first, then we'll do some news, and then, of course, we will look at the charts. So looking at the coin market cap, just quickly scanning the list by market cap here, you can see on the week, last 7 days, Bitcoin up 10%, as most of you know. Most of that came in about a day and a half. ETH up 21%. The big winner, EOS 38%. Very nice to see such a large market cap name running that big. But across the board, just green, and man, it feels good. It's been a long time since we've seen such a strong couple of days. Now, granted, in the big picture, I mean, it's not a massive run. We'll look at the big picture chart here shortly, but it's good. It's good to see a little bit of green, some buyers stepping in for more than just a flash in the pan pump and quickly fades, as they have been doing for the most part. But we are seeing some good positive action all around. And so I hope you guys have been paying attention. There's been a lot of really good news too, which is surprisingly well, I guess. I mean, I would think the market would be a little bit stronger with some of the news, but all around, good week. Looking at the Bitcoin dominance here, you can see over the last year, it's been steadily climbing, hit a peak around that 57% mark here in September. And it's just kind of been in a range since then, but has been edging slightly lower as some of these alts are starting to play a little bit of catch up versus Bitcoin here outperforming, as we just saw, up 38% on EOS on the week. So when you see those big cap names, ETH, EOS, Ripple, gaining a little bit of ground versus BTC, you're going to see this number drift lower. But the number that I generally pay attention to, it's kind of hard to see here probably, is this middle line here, this all others, right? That's the names that are not on this list here, other than the bigger cap names. This is the line that we want to see start rising again, like it was back here in this March, April timeframe, because then when this is rising at such a fast clip here, the alts are just rocking and they are on fire versus BTC. And so we'll see if we can get that. But right now, they're just kind of keeping up with Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up, alts go up, Bitcoin goes down, alts go down. And so everything is pretty much working in sync right now. Looking at some news here, Elon Musk. I'm a big fan of Elon. For those of you that don't know, I'm a space nerd. But he was talking about Bitcoin, and I mean, the guy has a huge following on Twitter. So anything he says, it takes like 5 minutes and there's news articles on Bloomberg and CNBC and all this stuff. And of course, he said Bitcoin was brilliant, better than paper money. As he said, paper money is going away. I agree. I mean, it's just a matter of time before paper money is gone. But Elon was tweeting about Bitcoin. And then, of course, he said, that being said, I still only own 0.25 BTC. I'm a little bit disappointed there, Elon. What's going on here, man? You're behind the times. A guy like you should have been all over this. So I don't know if he's just saying that or if he really does own just 0.25 BTC, but kind of surprising. I think he'll come around. We'll see a tweet from him saying, hey, guys, I just bought a 1 Bitcoin. So we'll see here. But Elon Musk was in the news. We're continuing to see some chatter around Bitcoin, and mostly positive. Of course, you're always going to have the banks. You're going to have JP Morgan, Coin, Puke, that, of course, they're going to be saying negative things about Bitcoin. But it's cool to see some of these tech giants. You've got Jack Dorsey from Twitter and Cash Square and all that good stuff talking positive about Bitcoin. And then Samsung, as was rumored, as was suspected, they confirmed the hardware wallets. You can store your private keys on your phone. Not sure if I would want to do that anyway, but just the adoption, the positive tone that it's taken here in crypto, and these big tech companies are seeing the light. It's not going away. Crypto's here to stay. And it's just kind of cool to see a little bit more adoption. Of course, what does that mean for the Finny and all that other stuff? And I've long said, I know Finny's switching over to more OS-based stuff, but I've long since said that I just don't see that one long term, just because, Sirin, it's just hard to break into that space. And when you got these dominant players, I mean, all they have to do is do like Samsung and start implementing it on their own, and they kind of make those other ones obsolete. But a lot of news, a lot more, of course, that I didn't cover, but there will be plenty of other channels that do cover the news very well, such as Cryptos, and so go check those out here. The real question is, will fiat currencies be worth once they go digital? There's no cap on fiat now. Honestly, it's going to be the same thing. I mean, they're mostly digital now, so I mean, there's not going to be a big difference here. Are they going to be truly blockchain crypto fiats? They're going to be crypto from the control point of perspective, in my opinion. Is there going to be a cap? No, I don't think so. Just like fiats now, just going to print it infinitum here. So before we get started on the charts here, I will get right to these here. Just a quick reminder, what day is it? The 22nd of February. So there is a few days left. I am currently running a sale on the new cryptocurrency trading course. If you'd like to purchase this or part of this, you can buy these individually. You will get 30% off. Check out my Twitter feed. I have it pinned. There are some promo codes you can enter. Those will be valid through the end of February, and you get a 30% discount on that. So nodeinvestor.com/training is where you can take advantage of that. And for those of you that are subscribers to the Node Insiders Alert System, if you go to resources, training courses, you already have access to these videos as a bonus. And so I will continue to be adding new videos over time here. So this library will grow, but if you want to take a peek, see what these are all about, that's another way to take advantage of that. So without further ado, let's get to the charts here. All right, so looking at Bitcoin here, let me zoom out and look at the weekly chart and the daily chart here, because it's important to always start with the big picture, right? What's the broader point of view? Where have things come from? Where are we going? And so looking at the weekly chart here, we can see that this is the first week. I know there's still a couple of days left. This is the first week, if it closes here, that it will be above the 10 EMA on the weekly chart since August 27th, the week ending August 27th of 2018. That's a long time. I mean, when you think about that, I mean, that's multiple months that it's just been in this decline, living below these moving averages. Now, that being said, the moving averages are still inverted, meaning the shorter term moving average is below longer term moving averages still. So we've got a lot of work to do, no doubt, but the volume here has been positive. The buyers are still in control in the near term. We're seeing a little bit of a pause here, but good to see a little bit of a floor being put in. Now, is this the low? Is it the ultimate low? I'm actually quite surprised to see so many bullish sentiments coming out right now as prices have found a little bit of a low here. People are talking about that's the bear market bottom, and multiple coins have hit bear market lows. And I get all that, right? They've run up 50%, 100% versus BTC. But that's expected when you get that first bounce off the lows, these high percentage gains, because things have just been crushed. If you look at some of the names that are down 70, 80, 90%, it's not going to take a lot for them to run 100%. So just keep that in mind. But we are seeing some positive action. We're still kind of breaking out of this little bear pennants, a little bit of an equilibrium pattern forming here, symmetrical bear pattern here at the lows. And there's a lot of resistance on the way up, but near term, positive action. The buyers are stepping up here. We're seeing some buyers in control, but ultimately we want to see this low hold. So the low that we put in a few weeks back around that 3,100, 3,300 level, set a higher weekly low. That's the low to be keeping an eye on here. We want to see prices hold. If it starts to break below that 3,300, then I don't expect that 3,100 to hold personally. I think you'd see a quick spike lower if it breaks below that. So near term, that's kind of the line in the sand, the defense that was put in here, multiple weeks of buying support at that level, and now we're pushing higher. Of course, on the upside, and we'll look at that at a little bit more granular level, is this little bit of resistance that we're approaching here near term. 4,200 kind of is that round number that everyone's watching here. So that's the weekly chart. If we go to the daily chart, very nice to see the daily chart making a series of higher lows. Big buying volume coming into as well as this happens. Now it's still a little extended. And so I'd like to see a little bit more pause action here. Personally, the RSI is still up here right around that 70 level, cooling off a little bit, but a little bit extended from these moving averages. The 10 EMA is quickly catching up on that daily chart, but it's still sitting around that 3,800 level. And so I'm cautious on any breakout attempts. It's very common to see these breakouts that kind of suck everybody in, and then they quickly pull right back down. And so ideally, we'd like to see a little bit more pause action, or even, I mean, I know people don't want to hear this, but I'd like to see a little bit of pullback here, set a higher low, and then that'll give this some room, some legs to kind of start taking off here a little bit more. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, but the buyers remain in control. Got to lean on the side of the buyers here near term, as we've set a little bit of a reversal here, but that's the resistance that we're approaching right now. This high that we saw here in early January that just couldn't take out that 4,100 level, we're still below that. And so I posted a video a few days ago as we were approaching this level, talking about how we were approaching some resistance. I outlined a few things I'd like to see. Of course, there was the retracement potential. And I said, best case scenario, we kind of just chop around here for a few days, let things cool off, build a new base of support, and then that'll give it some legs to kind of push through. And that's still what I'm looking for. I'm still kind of leaning in that direction. If we zoom in here, look at the 4-hour view, you can see this consolidation has let these moving averages start catching up here now. As I said, the 10 EMA on the daily is still down here around 38. So still a little bit of a ways down, but this was interesting here. I was actually watching the charts here when this happened a couple nights ago. I was up and I got some alerts, and I saw that push over 4K, and it was classic. I was thinking, here it comes, the fake out, breakout, shakeout, and sure enough, pushed over 4K, and then just quickly the sellers showed up. You can see the volume on that was a little bit above average, higher than the prior bars there. But the good news is we had that shakeout, but it didn't really see a whole lot of follow through to the downside. It had that fake breakout and then smacked right back in. And the buyers really started to step in here right around that 3,900 level. And so we'll see if that holds in near term. It's still feeling a little toppy right now. Like I said, I'd like to see a little bit more pullback, let things cool off a little bit, and then make a higher low on that daily chart, and then start setting up for another leg higher into next week. So we'll see if that happens here. But this chart certainly is primed for a potential breakout. If you look at these rising lows on these 4-hour charts here, and really the level to be watching is a close, not a wick, but a close outside of that range here. So really that 4K level, so 39.90 starts closing above that. You could see a quick move higher, but I will be suspect of any kind of long move just because it's still a little bit extended here in the near term, but still looking like it may want to break out. There's some argument to be said that this is a lower high here that we saw, but ultimately, until it takes out these lows right here, you got to give it the benefit of the doubt. So near term on the downside, 3,900 level is really the first number that I'm watching, kind of a round number. Closing below that, likely see some more downside. And then right around that 10 EMA on the daily, between there and 3,800 is kind of the next level that I'm going to be watching here. If it tops here, let's say it decides to pull in from this level, looking at the fib analysis, just doing some retracements from this last leg up, if we go to the peak that we just saw here, the 382 retracement level is right around 38.65. And so that'd be the first line of defense that you'd be wanting to pay attention to. And then below that, around that 50%, 38.18, and then 37 would be a little bit too deep at this point. So 38.18 is what I'm going to be watching. And that happens to line up with the 10 EMA right now. If I pull up my 50 EMA, maybe hard for you guys to see here, but that's right around here. So that little zone between that 382 and the 50% level would be an ideal place to set a higher low on the daily chart and then potentially set up another run higher. But we've had a pretty good run, so needs to digest this, move a little bit, pause a little bit, but the daily chart still looking positive, putting in a nice little bit of a low here for a couple of weeks now, running higher, buying volume is coming in. And in the big picture, I mean, if you take the log off, and this chart is just amazing here. Let me go to Bitstamp real quick. where's my dollar list here? And then we will quickly cycle through some of these other names here. That's Coinbase. This is Bitstamp. Let's take the log off. I mean, if you look at this chart, it was just this parabolic run we've had, the 2018 drop, the quick spike lower, and this little low that's starting to form here in the big picture. And so could that be the low? Could that be the beginnings of a little bit of an accumulation zone? I mean, it's looking positive from that perspective because it's not like it's a couple of weeks low. It's, you know, setting a little bit of a low here for a couple of months now. Here we are approaching March of 2019. And so see if we can get some more upside breakout from here. But one day at a time, as I always like to say, especially if you're trading it. Now, from a long-term perspective, I have been buying BTC. I started adding back in early December when we started to see this big drop lower. It was probably late November, to be honest, and started scooping some more Bitcoin up here. But many of the alts look like they're putting in a low. I'm still predominantly just BTC at this point. I do have some other alts, but you know, the majority for sure is still Bitcoin. But I'm looking at some of those long-term charts on the alts, at least the projects that I think are going to do well longer term and stick around. Going to be time to start looking at some of those and potentially shifting some BTC over into some of those names here. So that's Bitcoin. Those are the levels to be watching here in the near term. Let's take a look at some of the other names. So we will basically just march down the list. I'm going to do the top 10. So we will end at Cardano, and then we'll see how much time we have at that point and go from there and look at a few others. So here we go. ETH, Ripple, EOS next. So looking at ETH, I'm going to do ETH BTC, and then I'll do the USD pair on some of these. So I do like this ETH chart, by the way. I was watching this. Look at how symmetrical this is getting here over the last couple of days as this consolidation takes place. You can see these tightening ranges, right? You got this swing high and got a swing low here, right? The moving average pair rallies, makes a lower high, pulling back, finding support again at these moving averages, trying to rally higher. So what we want to see here now is it take out this high right here. That would officially be a bull breakout, but then of course ultimately got to take this one out. But looking positive from this perspective. So potentially ETH consolidating, digesting this move, setting up for another run versus Bitcoin. It has had plenty of time to let these technicals cool off. The MACD histogram is starting to tick higher. RSI is sitting tight. So definitely one to watch. Now, of course, the big caveat with all of these is if Bitcoin decides to have a little spike lower, that will certainly break some of these charts, in my opinion. They're just going to follow suit. So one to keep an eye on, but ETH is looking pretty interesting here. If we look at it from the dollar perspective, you know, just be going sideways, it's going to look real similar to the BTC chart. Let me clear my old notes here. But you can see this one, a little symmetrical here, but also ripe for a breakout if we can get above that 148 level. Closing above 148, it's going to set it up for another leg higher. You could argue this is an ascending triangle base on the dollar pair that's forming here with this flat top and the rising lows as this consolidates, getting very narrow here on the right side. So definitely one to be watching from both the USD side as well as the BTC pair. Ripple BTC first. So looking at Ripple, again, another failed attempt here. And this is, you know, just been the case, right? I talked about this one. I did a private live stream for the Node Insiders here on Monday. It was just kind of my weekly chart review. And I looked at Ripple and I just quickly passed because I said, hey, I'm going to stick to those names that are stronger, right? Litecoin, EOS, ETH. Why go with something that's just drifting lower? And what I ended up doing is I put an alert on this trend line. I said, if it breaks the trend line, I'll take a look at it. And of course, I got the alert when it smashed right through and then just quickly fizzled out right back below. And so it just continues to lag. Not one I am interested in at this point. If we look at it from the USD side, it's going to look a little better just because the market has been strong. From that perspective, it looks much better, right? I had that rally pulling back right now, sitting above this breakout point right here. But versus Bitcoin, you know, there's better options out there for me at this point. So I think it's just a laggard here. Now, that can change at any moment, as we know. Out of nowhere, they can have these pumps off the lows and quickly turn the corner. But for now, it is certainly a laggard relative to some of the other names here. All right, EOS, strong name. Winner on the week, up 39%. You can see here very strong versus Bitcoin and consolidating here a little bit. I had a pretty good trade on EOS. I jumped in before the breakout last Sunday and I caught most of this move here. Did not catch the second leg higher here, but that's okay. And it's just kind of been consolidating here. So definitely back on my radar after this consolidation, letting these moving averages catch up. Much like ETH, this is forming, this higher lows here, a little bit of a flat top, setting up for a little breakout here. You can call this potentially another symmetrical type of pattern here, but in any way you look at it, it is positive. The buyers remain in control in this name. Still looking good. If we look at it from the USD side, had a nice little breakout there. EOS USD, we'll go here. You can see this one's also setting up here. So that $4 level really is kind of the next target in view. If we go to the daily chart, just a lot of room to run. I mean, there's not a lot of resistance in this little window right here. It's just kind of in no man's land at this point. It's had a big run. If we go and do a retracement, I wonder how far that's run already. Might be the 6.8 already. Pretty close, not quite, but it's getting pretty close to the 618 retracement on the bounce. Nonetheless, been very strong. It is feeling a bit extended though, like some of these other names. You can see RSI is still up here in the high 70s. 10 EMA is way down here, 337. So best case, in my opinion, would be another one of these type of things where it just, sorry about that, or it does one of these for more than just 3 days and gives you a longer consolidation, lets the move digest, or pull back a little bit more, and then that'll set up one more leg higher. So definitely one I'm watching, a little bit extended. I'm not expecting next week to be another 38% runner on this name, but hey, anything can happen, right? This is crypto. All right, next on the list here, and I'm moving fast if you haven't noticed here, or I'm trying to. Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Stellar. So Litecoin, another strong name as of late. Let me switch that. I can do this. I can do this. So looking at Litecoin here. So first things to note here is this is the daily chart. So the higher time frames have a little bit more relevance. You've seen this higher high here with this bearish divergence. So a little bit of a warning flag for me there that this may be running out of steam. All things being equal, if you just look purely at the price action, it's still moving higher. It's still above the 10 EMA. It's still making higher highs and higher lows. So from that perspective, there's no sell signals yet, but always keep an eye on the momentum, the underlying technicals, and it is signaling a little bit of loss of momentum. So what I'm going to be watching here is if this decides to break through, makes a new low undercutting this level, then that certainly will confirm what we're seeing, that bearish divergence on the chart. And at that point, to be looking for a little bit longer consolidation. But if we look at it from the dollar pair, so LTC USD, I'm liking the fact that it's cleared this resistance right here, right around that $47 mark, pushing higher, pausing, consolidating above that as these moving averages catch up. If you look at the buying volume too, just very bullish buying action here, just big green candles on the way up, very little selling even now. So until the trend turns, you got to give it the benefit of the doubts. I mean, we've seen this before, right? Look at Binance coin. We'll look at that shortly, but multiple divergences, paused for a little bit, and then just kept going. So when the momentum is there, you got to ride the trend and go with that as opposed to, going against the trend or shorting it or something like that. So definitely just wait for the signals. But all in all, looking pretty good. I was watching this next level here around 47, clearing it, still holding above. We'll see how that one plays out here over the next few days. Bitcoin Cash. I want to pull it up on the Coinbase exchange. This is the equivalent to Bitcoin Cash ABC. If you look at the dollar chart here, maybe, the daily chart, maybe finding a low, maybe. It's been a laggard too, just like Ripple's had a few false attempts, but this last one looks a little bit better. Big volume coming off of this, a little bit of a bull flag forming there. See if you guys can see that here. I'll do my parallel channels. You can see a little bit of a flag forming there right at the moving averages. We go a little bit deeper, go on that 4-hour chart, kind of pausing. So keep an eye on this. What is that? 0.035 level. Watch to see if that holds. And then ultimately, it's got to break out of this little channel that it's pulling in on. But the volume here was positive. I don't know about that big wick that followed. That kind of kept me away from it here. Again, another name that we saw on Monday pushing higher, but then I saw this big wick. I said, nah, I'm not liking that. It did attempt to take that high out, but has since just been drifting lower. So has some flaws, but in the daily chart, maybe finding a low finally. The volume there is compelling. You got to give that to the benefit of the doubt here. If we look at it from the USD side, when cash USD, much stronger looking there. You can see a big jump, a little bit of a bull flag here as it pulls back into that 50 EMA on the daily, still above the 10, still above the 22, letting that RSI kind of settle out here in that 60 range. So can't complain. Actually, not too bad. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this one here over the weekend. Might be a good one to ride for another leg up. All right, Stellar, Tron, Binance Coin, and Cardano. So Stellar Lumens, I've been talking about this one coming off the lows, maybe finally showing a little bit of life here. If we go to the 4-hour chart, actually, I'm going to pull it up on Binance. Finally showing a little life here. And so it's interesting because this low that it put in here was that long time weekly low that I pointed out here a few weeks back. Let me go to that weekly chart. And you can see here, this arrow, this was 3 weeks where it just wicked right into that level. And that just happened to be where the buyers did step in again. And pretty cool to see that, right? That support level holding, but is it just a bounce? Is it that, multi-month double bottom? Who knows? Ultimately, I would not be surprised to see a little bit of bounce action into this resistance level here on the weekly chart. If we zoom right back in, that's a big percentage of move potential that this could have on the lower time frames here, the daily or the 4-hour chart. So however you're trading this, even if it rallies halfway up, right, you're talking 15-20%. Of course, at the top there, that's about almost 30%. So not a bad little potential move here on this guy, but it is looking better here as of late. Finally seeing some volume coming in. It's had a few attempts. It had an attempt here, finally put in a low, and then here this week saw some good buying volume coming in and just kind of sitting tight, consolidating right now. So looking good all around. I'm liking this pattern here. I'm watching this level here, a close above that. You can see there's been a few wicks that have attempted to push through it, but a close above that, which is what, 2320 basically, would be another breakout. And that would also take out this resistance here as well, which is basically where we've seen it pausing here over the last few days. So looking much better now. If we look at Lumens dollar, pull that up on Bitfinex. Again, positive action here, kind of just sitting tight, putting in a little bit of a range here as it consolidates over the last couple of days. So definitely one that is looking much better than it was even just a week ago. All right, Tron, Binance Coin, Cardano, Tron. So Tron drifting lower. No surprise there as the airdrop took place. All that stuff happened. There was a little bit of run up into the news. And of course, as we have seen often the case, leading into that or a few days before, people are just kind of like, yeah, it's already been priced in, get out of the way. And it's just been drifting lower versus Bitcoin has been a laggard again. It was a strong mover when most names were just very weak, very strong mover, end of the year and certainly in January, but it did top and, just never was able to take out that early January peak, had another run at it here. And since then has just been drifting lower. We'll see where we find a low here. Right now, it's testing this little breakout point as your support. So that's really the next level to be watching here. Kind of trying to hold there. We'll see if it does. Ultimately, nothing for me to do on any of these until they start to take out some downtrend, right? It's just making a series of lower highs. And until that changes, I'm going to just wait this one out. Looking at Tron dollar. It is farming a little bit of a low here as it rallies. Well, not rallies. The dollars, the dollar pairs are looking better just because Bitcoin has been so strong. So that's kind of your near-term low. And then here today, finding some support around that 2.5 cent mark or 45 cent mark. But I think there's better ones out there. All right, Binance and then Cardano. And then we'll skip around here and look at a few very quickly. So looking at Binance has just been one of the leaders here as of late. Very strong move. All-time high territory versus Bitcoin. Here's the weekly chart. You can see it took out that high here last week, pulled right back in a little bit, pushing higher here this week, and just blue sky breakout. Now it is a little extended here. I mean, look at how strong this move has been, but there's no overhead resistance. And so at this point, it could just keep going, because anybody who's holding this coin on the BTC pair at least are, in the green. Obviously, if we look at it from the dollar, it's got a long ways to go before it hits any all-time highs from that level. But it's had quite the run. I mean, look at this thing, bottomed out at $4.50, now up to almost 11. But it is bumping into this resistance zone that we're seeing right here, and that's where we're seeing a little bit of a pause. So we'll see how this one plays out going into that $12 mark. That seems to be a pretty big wall. Early or late last year, remember this big inverse head and shoulders that it put right around that $12 mark, kept holding, finally broke, and then it was just smacked down after that, bounced almost up to that point. So I have to wonder how much more room this has to go to the upside before it needs a little bit more extended consolidation, right? They don't always have to come down, but could it just like chop around here for a little bit, let this thing digest? It could, and it would not be surprising at all, especially bumping into some resistance here. So I still like it. I think Binance long-term is good, but near-term, it's had a good run. Would not surprise me to see a little bit of rotation out of this name into some of the others. But there's some news catalysts that are supporting it. I mean, there's got the DEX, maybe adding margin, maybe ICOs. So, could see some front running into that. Cardano. So looking at Cardano, a big inverse head and shoulder type of pattern forming here. The neckline being right around that 1353 level. And then, of course, above that would be a pretty decent breakout into that next resistance level if it can do that here. But if we zoom in, this is again versus BTC. Just making a series of higher lows. I was watching. This was actually one of my top picks here early this week. Didn't jump on it. I was looking for a potential pullback. It's been very choppy and just kind of broke below that level here. So I haven't done anything with it, but I do like it. So I think it's holding up here and finding a little bit of a low. So maybe a good pullback entry if BTC can hold up. Of course, that's always the big if, and would not surprise me to see a little bit more pullback action here. So want to keep an eye on here. But if we look at it in the big picture, it looks good on that daily. If you look at it from the USD side, still holding up very well here, just kind of pulling back a little bit. There was some big volume on that spike lower here yesterday, kind of a little bit of what is that, bear flaggish bounce type of action that we're seeing right now. So see if we can break out of that downtrend. Here's what I'd be watching, right? If it can clear this trend, start to negate that big red candle that we saw. Otherwise, this is the level to be watching on the dollar pair, this breakout point around that 0.043. It's got to hold above that, which so far it is. All right, so let me take a quick swig of some water here. Been talking at fast speed and reading your comments here a little bit. So thank you guys for joining. If you joined late, we did a quick recap of some news items, and then we went through BTC, technical analysis, and then just quickly ran through the top 10 coins ending at Cardano here. So let me catch up on some comments here, and then we will quickly scan a few more here. I'm going to call it a day early. It's been not a long week. Actually, the week was kind of abbreviated just because the stock market was closed on Monday. So there was no trading for me on Monday, but certainly been trading the rest of the week and called it a day early today from that perspective. But the stock market just continues to see its bounce. It is bouncing into some interesting levels here. So definitely something I'm watching as it approaches that 280 level on the SPYs. See if we get some pause action there. But mostly I've just been day trading the stocks, not really swinging anything for longer term holds. And the trading has been pretty good lately. So let me see here. Byteball. All right, a couple names that I'm liking here. Have not talked ICX. That's one of them. I will do that. We'll look at Ontology. And let's see what else here. And by the way, man, it's cold outside. I know most of you guys are laughing because it's like Arizona doesn't get cold. It's cold. There's a ton of snow. I'm gonna go play in the snow again this weekend. So Oh, all right. Cool. All right, let me go through some of these here quickly, and then we will wrap this one up. So I'm going to go ICX first because it's one I'm really liking here from both the USD side and the BTC side. And so zooming out here to the daily chart, if you remember, ICX a couple weeks back had this big volume spike. I mean, well above what we've seen here in recent history, and has just really been range bound since then, just sitting tight on this daily for going on 2 weeks now. But definitely one to watch. I'm not taking it off my radar. I'm not losing sight of this guy just because it's really been holding up. If we zoom in on that 4-hour chart, you can see just very range bound, hits the top, hits the bottom, hits the top, hits the bottom. So just getting very range bound here, but is looking pretty good. And eventually they're going to break out of this range. Will it go up? Will it go down? It's anyone's guess. If Bitcoin pushes higher, it would not surprise me to see this guy move up. On the way up, this is some room to run here. Next level I'm watching, if it can break out, is around that 730 to 740 level on the BTC pair. If we look at it from the USD side, also right at some resistance. Let me go to the daily chart here real quick. You can see here, this one is just clearing this near-term resistance that we've been seeing here right around that 24-cent mark. Finally starting to edge higher. Tried to push yesterday and got smacked right back in, edging out here a little bit today. And so just like the BTC pair, at this point, you've got a big window here because look at this was basically this 1-day drop, that big bar early January that smacked it down. And so it's got to close above this level here today, but it's looking positive. So definitely one I'm keeping an eye on here. It's one of the better breakout setups other than like maybe ETH or something right now. Ontology. And Ontology finally showing some life here. Ontology looking pretty good here. Had a nice move on, was that Monday, I think it was? No, that was last week. Pulling back and then finding some follow through here this week as it finally breaks out above this resistance here. So you can see these big wicks, bam, 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 smack down here. And then had that move last week, smack down again, finally pushing through. Buyers are stepping in on the USD side, looking pretty good from there as well. You can see this guy just starting to move up the right side. This curve is looking nice here, higher highs. So looking good here, also edging out above some resistance on the dollar pair today. So Ontology gaining some momentum, and this guy can move, man. I've seen this one when it gets momentum going, it could really get going. And you know, it's just got a lot of levels to clear along the way up here. That's big drop down, but looking like it's finally putting in a good low. VeChain BTC. This one was wearing me out. I think I jumped in this one too early. I jumped in like a week and a half ago. Where was it? Right here. This guy. And it was like up and then down, then up. All right, we're getting going. And then just gave it all back up. And I'm just thinking, I'm going to give up on VeChain. And then here the last 2 days, finally seen some action, some volume coming in. And so we'll see. Next test is, can it finally break out of this range? It's been very range bound here for about a month and a half. Well, 2 months now, 3 months since basically December. Resistance here, support, resistance here, support, resistance here, support, right back at resistance. Can it finally break out above that 127 level, 130? That's going to be the level to be watching here this weekend. But the volume is looking good. But hey, you could have said that back here too. You could have said, hey, that was good volume too. Didn't break out. So that's the level to be watching here near term. All right, let me see here. I see your comments. I will jump to those here. Let me go to some of this here real quick, see if there's any names that are rising to the top. TNT. All right, we'll look at that. Ontology, we've seen that. Air Swap, VeChain, Engine, a lot of small cap names. Ravencoin, Singular DTV. We've seen Icon. Theta is always on the list here. Waves, Wheat Power, Arion. Most of these other names we've seen already. On the Bittorrent side, Data. All right. Let's go take a look at some of these here first, and then we'll jump in here. Terion, TNT. Man, there's a lot. That's a name from yesteryear. TNT popping on the alerts here today. Seen some pretty good action here. These small cap names, they just kind of have those big pumps. But okay. Kind of clearing some resistance here today. TNT. All right. Who's next? AirSwap. This was on the list last week, and Doc. All these small cap names to run here a little bit. So AirSwap's been putting in a pretty good low. I think we looked at this one in the last live stream here, just kind of bouncing off this level. Seeing some more action here again today. What was the other one? Data. Nah. Doc maybe seeing another run after had that big run last month. Maybe another one here coming off the lows. Looks like it may have found that support here right on that 230 level. Raven coin. All right. Raven. Still downtrend. Factum. I saw Factum hit the alerts the other day. I was like, Factum again? Maybe. Some volume spikes starting to show up. Factum. Remember that big run it had? My goodness, Factum. Had that big run off the lows, just wham. We'll see. Maybe. It's still trending lower in the big picture, still struggling against these moving averages, but hey, maybe it's finding a low here. All right. Let's take a look at some of the names you guys want to see here. So we did VeChain. Let me see. We did Icon. We have not done Digibytes. That's a name I haven't looked at in a while. Let's take a look at that one. Do you see an inverse head and shoulder on the daily chart of Cardano? Yep. Good catch. That's what I just looked at there. We'll look at Torrent. All right, let's do a few more here. Then I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to grab some lunch and get ready to rock and roll. All right, so Digibyte. I'm going to Digibytes. Let me clear this line here. Whoops, sorry about that. Here we go. Oh man, Digibytes. This is the daily chart on Bittrex hitting a long-time support level. Again, back to the same March level, March of 2018, just like Lumens was last year at this level. And so that's a key support level that it's maybe finding some support at now. You can see 236 here was the low in early December. And then here just last week, almost to the penny, hit that same exact number again at 230. And so trying to bounce off the lows here. We zoom in a little bit here to the 4-hour chart. I mean, that's really the level to be watching near term. And then ultimately, I mean, it's got a lot of resistance. It's got to start taking out here along the way up as it starts to run, if it does. So definitely has some hurdles to overcome. But if it can start to turn the corner, take out this downtrend, which looks like it may be doing, there may be some good news here. So, all right. Neo BTC, look at that daily chart. Wowzers, maybe finding a low. So look at Neo BTC, ran into that same level here again early this week, but it is kind of sitting tight here around these levels. So if it can hold up and stay above this guy right here, that would be ideal. So this is what I want to see, this kind of just chopping around here, building a new base, and that may set up for another run above this level here. Some of this was kind of running up into the Neo DevCon that they had last weekend. You know, nothing dramatic or major came out of that. So I don't think we saw much news on that, but this is the next level to watch if it runs higher. On the Neo dollar pair, and that's looking good too, right at resistance here around this level here, $9, 903 basically. And so that's that'd be a big breakout if it could do that here. So 903 has been the wall here. There was a little wick there, right here for 3 days, and then here we go again, right back at that point. So this is really the big breakout point. If it can push higher, you can see here that not a lot of resistance here. This was pretty much a straight drop in November, and so above that, you could very quickly be right back at 12 bucks, maybe a little higher. And so, hey, Neo double digits again. All right, out of the ant share prices. Finally, we'll see if that happens. All right. What was the other one? There was one that you guys had pointed out. Oh, Torrent. Let's see here. So looking at BitTorrent here. I was watching this one for a potential breakout of this. Looks like it tried here yesterday, still above the breakout points. Let's zoom in a little bit here. If we go to the 4-hour chart, this is kind of the view I was looking at here. I'll take that line off now. But still making these lower highs, hitting a little bit of a wall right now here. You can see that's really your level that it needs to take out, but still trending higher. So can't complain there. See if we can take that one out. If it can break out of this little double top that it's doing here near term, then you got to run to maybe that 1151, and then of course the prior high is 1250. Let's see here. Scroll through this. Remember to smash that like button. Smash the thumbs down if you like. If it makes you feel better, just do it. It's all good. Oh, man. Pivx. I'm just reading the comments here. Air swap. Didn't I look at AST? Quickly? Yeah, I did. AST. AST is rocking. Pushing up here the last couple of days. It has these big wicks, though. This is a name that's really tough for me to trade, so I just don't. Ethland. Man, that's a name I haven't seen forever. Be careful. Binance is delisting names. They're taking Sol down. Well, let's see. Ethland maybe finding some support here at 220 or 200 down to the 180 level. Seen some volume here today, but hasn't seen a whole lot of follow through here as of late. So it's just kind of range bound. It's been range bound here for a couple of months. You can see that's the upper end of the range there. If we could break out of that, maybe you get a little bit of a run. Putting in a base. All right. Let's go back to BTC. Oh, JP Morgan coin. How can I forget? JP Morgan coin. Let me see here. How do you spell it? What's their ticker? Is it CRAP? No, that's not it. It's SH. No, that's not it. I don't remember what JP Morgan's ticker is. Let's go to something that matters. Looking at BTC. Top in here. We'll see. There's a potential breakout here, but as I said at the beginning, I'm a little bit more cautious of a failed breakout here. So if I had to kind of compare the two, I'm probably 60% bearish, 40% bullish. Near term. Longer term, the daily chart, it's still holding up, still looks just fine. Moving averages are catching up. I'm just saying in the near term, I think it needs a little bit more consolidation. I think that'd be healthy. Let things cool off a little bit. But could just as likely break out here. It's cooled off enough. It's had a few days of just rest here for the rest of the week. So we'll see. But there's clearly a resistance level coming in here above that 3,900 level. So I'm cautious. Let's just put it that way. Okay. We'll do 2 more, and then I'm going to call it a week. Hey, by the way, guys, just to get some feedback here, I'm thinking about doing a kind of not a tutorial video, but just an introduction video on trading precious metals, gold, silver, stocks, ETFs, all that good stuff. Is that something that would be of interest to you guys? I know some of you guys have commented on potentially covering some of the other markets, whether it's the stock market or some of that other stuff. And I'll probably start doing that occasionally, not a whole lot, because mostly I'm day trading those markets. But I do certainly watch them. So not sure if that'd be something that would be of interest to you guys. I know in the Slack group, I'm always posting chart updates on the gold market and silver and all that stuff, and maybe something to watch here. Speaking of that, was when the FOMC came out this week, man, that turned into a monster trade here for me. Let me pull up my charts. You can see the stuff I was trading here today. Let me pull this guy up. So when the gold market, there's see, you already got me talking about this, and now here I go. So gold has been on this nice run, and it was pausing, and this was when FOMC minutes came out and just smacked down. The euro tanked, the gold market tanked, the dollar popped, and it made for a nice little trade. If you look at the nuggets, which is the inverse, or not the nugget, the dust. the triple leverage inverse of the GDX. That pretty much turned a crap day, because it was pretty much a crap day of trading for me, into a winner. And so just that quick spikes, boom, was nice to see there. But there's so many options here. You could buy ETFs, you could do individual names, you could do the actual metal, you could do futures and options and ETFs. And so anyway, sounds like you guys are interested. So I will, I'll make time to put that together here next week. Okay, let's see here. I will do two more. We'll do the Zcash. Zcash. Not the 5-minute chart. So I was watching Zcash here. It looked like it was potentially breaking out of a, declining wedge type of thing here. Could still be in play, but it's really got to hold this support level now. Right now, it's looking like a false breakout, like a failed move lower or failed move higher. And looks like it maybe want to make a new relative low. So what I'm watching here, slight bullish divergence, but nothing to be too excited about here. So I think it needs more time. Could be finding a bottom maybe, but that was a kind of a failed breakout right into the 50 EMA there, just reversed and just pulling right back in. So something to be waiting on for now. Let's see how it looks on the dollar. I've always found it interesting that Binance has certain USD tether pairs and they don't on other names like Zcash or Dash, but they have nulls and they have some other names. I'm just like, okay, I don't get that. Similar pattern on the dollar pair, but this one's looking a little bit stronger, of course, because Bitcoin's holding up. So that one looks better from that perspective. What's the question, or what platform, IG? All right. So we did VeChain. At the start, I covered the top 10. So I stopped at Cardano. And then we did a few others. We did Icon, Ontology, and VeChain. And then some of the names that you guys wanted to see. Zed, Hot, Holo. Hot's been moving here as of late. I was watching this one. I was looking at potential trade setup here. You've got to give this one more room, obviously, because it's a low sat name. But I mean, can't complain on this setup. It's looking good, still trending higher. Looks like it wants to break out. So that one's definitely looking positive. All right, let's do Iota, and then we will wrap it up. Looking at Iota here, I'm going to look at Iota BTC. Was one I was looking at a potential setup here. Looked like it maybe found a low here on this daily on the pullback. Started to rally here, still trending higher, so could still be in play here. If you go to the 4-hour chart, you can see this is the trend to be watching here near term. We saw a pullback here today, oops, and kind of bouncing off that trend. If it starts to break below that trend, that'll change the tone here near term, and it won't be as positive. So that's really the thing I'm watching here near term. Looking like it is moving higher, still edging above this resistance here. So trying to get above that, but at the end of the day, this lower trend line is really the important part that needs to hold. So this could turn into a potential good pullback entry here. So the way I would look at this is, my stop loss if I traded this would be, right below this trend line, maybe below these two recent lows, little wiggle room, but that's, not even a 3% stop loss. So that'd be a relatively tight stop loss. And of course, your first resistance level is going to be that most recent swing high. And then above that, you're looking at about a potential 6% runner, 7%. So it's about almost 3R multiple, not too shabby. Okay. Well, folks, thanks for being here on this, my weekend, my Friday, your Friday, maybe Saturday, wherever you may be. As always, I appreciate the support, appreciate the thumbs up. Before I go, remember, nodeinsiders.com is where you can get the alerts. And if you go to the nodeinvestor.com/training and get more information here, if you enter promo code 4STEP, all caps, no dash, just 4STEP, or insiders, you can get the 30% off discount So take advantage of that. That runs through the end of February. Thanks for everything, guys. We will see you all next week. Have a good one.